I learned this tactic from Eminem that he used in rap, but actually makes sales way more effective. He always used to talk about owning all the negatives. You want to say every negative thing you possibly can about yourself so no one else can. But as salesmen, you can actually stack the deck in your favor using all the negative and then reversing it into positive. Here's how it works. It's all around the word but. Normally, if you've ever heard people who are like, oh, he's saying something good, where's the but? Because everyone is trained to emphasize what happens after the word but. But when you're persuading, what you can do is rather than say good thing but bad thing, you flip it. So you say all the bad stuff. Our program's really long, it's very difficult, it's complex, but it works better than anything else you've ever tried. The second half of the sentence becomes magnified because of the damaging admissions that but amplified.
3 hacks to make life suck less. Hack 1, make it hard to do anything but work. So if you look at my office, I have no windows anywhere and it's really plain. And so the only thing I really have to do is work. Hack number 2, a lot of people spend way too much time on their phone and not working. And so to cut down on my phone time, I put this little setting on there, boom, makes it gray. And so it's supposed to decrease how much you use your phone by 30%, at least it did for me, so you work that much more. Hack number 3, hear all that? I don't. It's easier to do more when you hear less. And these are the best business to start is one where people don't stop paying. And the easiest way to figure out what things that people buy that they don't stop paying is to look at your own credit card bill, your own bank statement, and look at everything that you pay for every month. The reason real estate fundamentally is such a big industry is that people don't cancel their rent. You have to keep paying your rent. People don't cancel their internet bill. People don't cancel their alarm system. People don't cancel their insurance. And so those are why those industries, if you look big picture, why those industries are so big and so long lasting. They predate the tax code, some of them, they survive wars, and they're 100+ year institutions. And guess what? You don't have a 100+ year institution by not making money. Most people don't change. They live the same 6 months of their lives 100 times in a row, and then they die. They go to the same places, they make the same jokes, they tell the same stories, they work the same job, and then they die. And it's all because they were never willing to be uncomfortable, because they were never willing to change. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable when I talk about this, but most people are average. The average person stays stuck in the same patterns. And so if you want to have a different outcome, you have to walk a different path.
To be the top 1%, you need to enter a room of 100 people and leave number 1. To be the top 0.1%, you need to enter a room of 1,000 people, like a local high school, and leave number 1. To be the top 0.01%, you need to enter an arena of 10,000 people and leave number 1. Think about it, a stadium. And in a battle to the death in that stadium, you have to come out on top. You beat everyone, not almost everyone, everyone. I went and spoke at this personal training thing. A girl raised her hand and asked a question. She said, I currently do outbound, DMing from my Instagram to get customers, but I want a more scalable method of acquisition. And I kind of looked at her, I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, outbound doesn't really scale. And I was like, in what world do you think that outbound doesn't scale? Of course it scales. Some of the biggest companies in the world do exclusively outbound. The problem that she had an encounter was, how do I hire, onboard, and train another SDR or another outbound rep or another DM setter? And so some people get to 5 and they're like, there's no way I can have more than that. But that becomes the complex problems that we then get to solve rather than saying, I'm going to do something new.
As soon as you hit whatever your rock bottom is, you can ask yourself, how can I let this bad thing serve me? So if you were the main character in a movie and the character gets passed up for the promotion, doesn't get the girl, the person they cared about most died, what would the character in the story do to move the plot along to get the happy ending? As soon as you recognize what that character would do, or what worldview would have to exist, then do it. No matter how bad it is, our moments of greatest growth typically come after our biggest upsets.
When you make big life decisions, don't listen to the people who are closest to you. Listen to the people who are closest to your goals. It takes everyone a different amount of time to realize that your friends and family, their realistic advice was just their own fear masquerading as reality. You don't need to make the same trade-offs that they decided were worth it. Different goals, different paths. Never expect someone who doesn't understand your goals to understand why you work so hard to achieve them. You never did it for them, you do it for you.
If you are someone who's ambitious, and this is me just talking specifically to you, you have to get used to being alone. I'm saying this because I used to think that there was something wrong with me, when in reality, I just didn't understand what the nature of being exceptional meant. To be exceptional means that you are the exception. It means that you are not normal. And so it's normal for normal people to find you abnormal if you do things that are not normal. I had plenty of friends who were like, I want to be an NFL player. I want to be a really rich tech entrepreneur. I want to be a touring musician, right? And they had these goals, but I'm like, dude, I see you just playing Fortnite 4 hours a day and you practice guitar once a week. Like, do you really want that? Or do you just like saying it because it makes you feel good? Realizing that I thought most people actually made no sense. They say they had these goals, but they took no action. And they called me work obsessed, and they would tell me I should take time off. And they're like, hey, you're not as cool anymore. You're not hanging out with the boys. Like, why aren't you participating in the fantasy league? Why aren't you watching football on Sunday with us? But the thing is that like I needed that Sunday because I had to prep workouts, I had to prep the music list for the next day, I had to run billing. And I looked at that football game and I was like, 1 year from today, will I remember this football game, or will I remember the fact that I'm not where I said I wanted to be?
The thing they don't tell you is the long way is the shortcut, because the shortcut never gets you there. And so people quit when things get hard because the thought of things being hard forever feels unbearable. But that's a lie, because nothing's hard forever. You either quit, it gets easier, or you get harder. But no matter what, the hard always ends. And the only way you lose is if you quit before seeing it through. And so what I try to tell myself when I'm in those like kind of harder times is this is for now, not forever. Poor people stay poor because they're afraid of other poor people judging them for doing the things it takes to get rich. As sad as this is, a lot of the people around you when you're starting out want you to lose because it helps them justify the risks that they were unwilling to take. And so by you making the risk and having the chance of being successful, it reminds them of the things they haven't done.
As someone who recently wrote a eulogy about this, I find it interesting when I think about what things we use to describe other human beings at the end of their life to summarize everything that happened. And what's very interesting to me is that the accomplishments that the person goes through is about 1 to 2 sentences. No one cares, even though it's something that we dedicate a huge amount of our time to. What I did find that was interesting is that there was 2 things that persistently come up as the things that people talk about. Number 1, service, and number 2, character. It's how did they behave and what did they do as a result of this idealistic behavior. Like at my funeral, no one will give a shit about how many books I sold. No one will care about the business that we built. No one will care about the houses, the real estate, the equity, and like no one will care. No one will care. At the end of your life, the only thing that people will talk about is how you helped other people and how you behaved. Criticism, which I know you both have tons of experience with, right? It's like, if you do nothing at all, you'll get criticized. If you do anything at all, you'll get criticized.
100%.
So criticism becomes a fixed cost of living.
I love what you said. It's life overhead.
Yeah. The only people who don't have that are dead.
Whenever you started anything, you will suck and you will be embarrassing. You will look back at yourself and you'll be embarrassed. Think about how you were as a toddler, right? If you do nothing or you do anything, people will criticize you. They'll criticize you if you do nothing. Like, think about it. If you do, he doesn't do anything, you'll get criticism. If you do anything, they're like, he's doing it. Look how stupid it is. People will criticize you. So the idea is do things that it is worth being criticized for you. And to me, pursuing goals, my own goals, is worth being criticized for. Like, if you believe that you want to make this difference, make this change, help people out in some specific way. I think Alex Becker said this, and I just love this. He's like, you have to embrace the cringe. Think about how embarrassing you are probably to your parents, or were to your parents when you were a child learning how to be a human. It doesn't mean that being human and not living is not worth doing. It just means that you have to go through that phase.
The reason more has the highest risk-adjusted return for a business or for you is that it's so hard to get something to work, right? Many of you guys have tried anything. You have a new marketing channel, a new sales script, a new offer. You try a bunch of things, and then finally something works. The likelihood that you changing that thing and that next thing working is actually statistically very low. Think about how many different things you had to try before something actually worked. I have these limited resources. I can allocate them to take a risk and roll the dice, or I have this thing that I know works and I need to jam more into that machine, which is why it's the highest risk-adjusted return move. The reality is that most people don't change. Most people live the same 6 months 100 times in a row and then they die. They go to the same places, they make the same jokes, they have the same small talk, they work the same job, and then they die because they were never willing to be uncomfortable, because they were never willing to change. And a lot of people get real uncomfortable when I talk about this stuff. But most people are average, and most people stay stuck in the same patterns. They live the same 6 months for 40 straight years and never change. And so if you want to be exceptional, then you will often have to be the exception.
That is what took me into a different tier of entrepreneur, was being able to say, like, all the shit that sucks is what I have to solve. Oh, the cash flow is an issue. There's a whatever, right? Well, then that means that like when you solve that problem, which you will, I like to think about it in terms of like I get a paycheck, which is like, okay, well, if I solve this problem, what would my business look like? Okay, well, what is that worth in terms of the delta? It's like, oh, well, I get $10 million for solving this problem. Well, it feels worth it now, right? Whereas if before it just felt like a pain in the ass, but if I feel like there's a rainbow in a pot of gold, it kind of drives me a little bit harder. And so I just value what the solution would add to the enterprise value of my business as the way to keep myself going when it sucks. But most of the times it's like, most of it is sucking by being like, oh, there's all this pain, but it's like you don't have the threads yet. But it's like once you kind of like wrap your arms around the problem, you understand what you need to do to solve it, and then solving it gets easy. It's usually there's a huge lack of data. At least for me, whenever I have these big amorphous problems, it's because I don't have transparency.